Welcome, everyone, to tonight's edition of the Signals from Mars live stream, brought to you by the Barzax podcast. And let's see, I got to fix this because I can't cut you out. We have our guest.
Tilt.
Let's see, guys. We got to.
That's better.
Okay. I mean, I can cut the chat panel out for now, and I can fit you guys both in easily. Or wait, hold on a second. No,
It's all good. We can do it like this. It's fine.
No worries.
No. There we go. That works out. People are here to see you, not me. So I want to welcome everyone to tonight's episode. We have Skye and Matt from Sumo Cyco on board. How are you guys?
Oh, we're good. We're busy bees over here, trying to get as much as we can done a week after album release, and still feels like there's never-ending amount of things to do.
You're talking about this. Well, it's reflecting off of the camera.
Nice. You have one of the Die Hard editions. That's sick.
Yeah, I haven't opened it yet because I'm saving it to do up on Patreon. I do unboxings of all the vinyls that I get. So I do the unboxings for my patrons. So that will be one of next month's unboxings because this month's already taken care of. So I have last week was a big week for releases. You guys, Gojira, and your label mates Tetrarch, which will all be next month's unboxing. So hello to everyone in the chat. And I have a bunch of questions for you guys. And anything you guys want to skip, tell me to go scratch and we'll go to the next question. No problem.
There's nothing you can scare us with. I think we can handle any question you throw at us.
Cool. You're talking about being very busy. Obviously, you guys have taken advantage of all the time during the pandemic. Outside of touring, is there anything that you guys haven't been able to do yet that you still want to do?
Well, it did throw a wrench in a lot of the plans. Obviously, having people around, period, is
Right.
helpful when you're trying to make videos, when you're trying to get the band together, doing like live streams, for instance. Like even right now in Ontario, it's illegal to do any live like stream as a performance. So
wow.
You're not even allowed to have like a couple camera guys and like your band in a room together. So those are challenges that present themselves that you can't really, predict, and it changes obviously month to month as the restrictions change. So I'm not going to say that the pandemic's been easy for us by any stretch of the imagination, but we've been able to, because we're kind of homebodies and we have a home studio, do our own videos. We've been able to do a lot that some bands haven't been able to do because of the problems with all the restrictions. So, we're not going to complain too much. We have it better than some people, but at the same time, it's just not a good thing overall, because we want to see venues do well. We want to see other bands do well. We want to see touring back. We want to see our crews and all the crew members that are tour managers and friends that don't have jobs right now. That's never good to see.
Right. Absolutely. It's funny to me that there have been bands that have complained and really not taken advantage of all of this time. I mean, obviously everyone knows their circumstances. Maybe people have had to work jobs or do different things to keep things afloat. But for bands that have just sat back and chilled out on their sofa this entire time and done nothing to help promote themselves.
Well, they're just not professionals, right? They're just like bands that aren't professionally in a band. You got to work all the time. Yeah.
Oh man, you're too funny.
It's true. I'm every day.
I don't even think you finished his question. You're just like, well, they're not even professional.
No, I was getting there. That's fine. But I mean, it's funny. I see all these people, not all these people. I see some people complaining about, hey, we can't do this, we can't do that. And I'm seeing that you guys are still within the confines of what you guys can do. You're doing everything that you can.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like for us, it's like technology is the way that people are going to experience music in this time. And everyone who has an access to a smartphone or a computer has ways that they can figure out how to make things work. I mean, like, streaming like yourself, doing interviews, going online, and like countless social
like our music videos. We kind of always made music videos like independently before COVID hit. It's kind of like we only had like maybe 2 or 3 extra crew that we'd pull out. So it wasn't like impossible for us to figure out. It's just getting past the lack of motivation when you're looking at the world that you can't tour. And that's the biggest thing I think a lot of musicians have, is that lack of motivation of going like, when is this going to open up and when can it work? And kind of our heads have been like, yeah, it's been really hard, but we just keep thinking like, we got to just keep making as much content as possible and connecting with people as much as possible online if we can't get out there and tour right now. So that's kind of
I think the mental hurdle is probably the biggest thing, right? Because I mean, in the pandemic at the beginning, I think I can speak for myself, but I'm sure other people can relate, of just like that kind of jaw-dropping kind of stuff going on in the world. And you're like watching all this unfold going, okay, I'm kind of confused at what all of this means for me in my life and how do I continue on under these set of circumstances. But I think after the first few months, things settled in that, okay, we're going to have to figure out how to pivot in the right directions to make it work. And for me, it's like, we know that we're not probably going to be out there touring. So let's think of plan B, C, D, E, and everything else that we can to try to make this career still happen for us. Because for us, this is, luckily it's our full-time gig, and we want to keep it being able to survive doing music full-time. So we got to like work extra hard to make it work in these circumstances. And it puts the pressure on our shoulders to make sure there's music out there and videos out there. And
one thing we were good at is, before we even met Napalm, we were already doing our own kind of independent tours, our own independent store. We already had a nice, solid, cult family that kind of helped support us when we're on tour. So we've been lucky to sustain a lot of that. Family's been behind us on this record and just stuck with us for the bunch of months. So that's a big help.
Yeah, 100%. The fans are everything in this time, and being close as you can to them is the most important thing.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, everything that you're saying, I feel sorry for people that think that things are just going to go back to normal at the drop of a hat if they haven't done anything this entire time. You have to connect. You have to keep telling people, hello, I'm here. There's 1,000,001 bands out there. And if you don't do it, someone else is going to step up and do it instead. So why not leverage what you have and, continue to connect with that fan base that you guys are talking about? It only makes sense.
Yeah. Especially if they have extra time, like you said, just laying on the couch. I mean, there's so many things you can learn about the industry, everything from how to use your social medias better, how to take on some of the video tasks, or, there's so much. I mean, I'm obsessed with trying to learn new skills all the time, and I feel like I never have enough time to learn them. So jealous of people who have time to sit on a couch and do nothing.
I laughed at like some of the people I hear that, I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done. I'm like, man, all we do is want to work and get creative. I laughed, especially when I saw an article recently, and it wasn't not dissing Metallica, but I was like, it said Metallica has written 11 new songs during COVID, and I was like, that's it? Like, that's all? Like in this. I mean, how many months? That's it?
I think it's more of the fact that they're bragging about 11.
We got so much stuff going on, man. Bands are out there. They should be working really hard. They shouldn't be, I don't know. That's my brain, at least. Yeah. I'm just making fun of it because I thought it was funny, because I think a lot of
11 songs. Oh my God.
I think there's there's a couple new, a lot of these modern artists that are coming out have put out more than one record already during COVID.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I've interviewed people that have said flat out, I have to release my album whether we're touring or not, because I write so much stuff that if I hold on to this for a year and a half, 2 years, I'm going to hate all these songs.
Sorry to interrupt. That's exactly. We actually said the same thing during all this lockdown because of COVID. When we signed with Napalm, we were writing the material, but because of it, the record got pushed back. They were like, you know,
Right.
let's see how it plays out for a while. But after about 6 months, Skye and I were like, we have to set a date because we're getting bored of these, and we won't be anywhere near as motivated and won't fall in love with trying to make the videos happen. There's a passion that you need right at this moment. So we got to that point where we were like, this has to start happening because we want to start writing new material. As soon as we start writing new material, that's going to be the stuff we're in love with. So yeah, I feel any band that goes through that for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. A while ago, you guys opened your house up, your church, to Napalm, and you guys did a whole thing where it was like a tour where you guys showed, you know, where all the magic happens, you know, throughout the entire building, house, so on and so forth. Was there any hesitation in your mind to do that initially, to say, wait a second, we're going to open the world to ourselves here, kind of, you know, outside of panicking to pick everything up and make it all look neat? Was there hesitation saying, you know, this isn't for us, or were you guys, yeah, sure, let's go for it from the start?
Yeah, well, I think we've been a pretty open band with everything we've done, especially with our core fan base. You know, we've always kind of been a little, maybe in some eyes of the industry, a little too open with talking about how things work behind the scenes and how we've been able to navigate the industry. And I think for us, it's about just being honest and open, and that's kind of the philosophy we've always used. And you know, our fan base already knew, we've already talked about the church a tons of times, and they've seen different aspects from behind the scenes here, behind the scenes there. But I think, you know, showing everybody in one big kind of video makes for kind of understanding how we work as a band. You know, here's where we do videos, here's how we record, here's how we run our store. And
I think a lot of it in our head is like, we like to be as open as possible about things and let people know just how deep you got to go into your own business if you wanted to even somewhat succeed. I don't consider us some like huge band. We're just lucky we're out there. We're lucky we have a deal now. We're lucky we do tours, but you know, for us to get to where we've got, like Skye and I had to like sit down 10 years ago and make a business plan up that was like, we are going to cut out this person, this person, this person.
We're never going to pay for a rehearsal studio again. We're never going to pay for a video studio again. Like we need to have these things that are
invest in everything ourselves. So we found this little beat up church. We, you know, we bought our own camera equipment. We put ourselves in debt. I'd say probably $30,000, $40,000 on our credit cards in that first 2-3 years of us investing in gear and getting out on the road. The first tour we ever did cost us maybe $15,000. We didn't make money. It cost us money. So I think that bands have the balls to be honest and tell you like how it is. Then your fans start to understand there's way more out there. There's way more support needed.
Right.
Be behind that band a bit more and understand.
We're always like this, you know, there's a certain threshold that you're away from actually like having to quit because you can't pay for anything anymore. So you want to stay within this like barrier here. And if you could like possibly jump out and become like a super successful band, that's amazing, but super rare. So like
we're just lucky we keeping our heads above
water.
Stay
balanced, get here, and then complete.
So with the church, we look at it as like we're proud of the church. Like we came up with like small, cool idea that we were like, we're going to cut out everyone or a lot of them. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to teach people a little bit. We're not, obviously we don't want to tell people this is how we're know-it-alls, but we've done this for years and we've survived and done a lot of tours now. And I really do. There is a key to like maneuvering upstream without drowning. And it's all about cutting out as many middlemen and learning how to do most of it yourself. And we did 10 years before we decided to work with Napalm. And we worked out even the right deal with Napalm. It took a long time to work out the right deal so that we could still run our store. We could do everything right. And I think everything's about being up here and you can help, really move yourself forward. The church so it's one of those things we were proud of when some people are probably like, how did these guys pull this off? I think we need to go into depth even more. Like Skye to pull off this church, had a back career on her, and she went through a huge lawsuit with this career, and there was a lot of fighting. And she was like, man, when she fought and got out of this lawsuit, she was like, I need to come up with a business plan that says, how do I survive now when I've got away from this major label? And that's what this whole thing came about. It's smart.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, you're investing in your own brand with everything that you're saying. And a lot of people don't realize that to become successful, you have to put money into whatever you're doing.
Big time.
With the idea that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that, you may be treading water for some time, but the idea is to be able to, as you guys are saying, keep your head above water in the long run. So,
I appreciate you saying that. It's so vastly underrated when somebody says you need to put money into making money. Like when somebody says you got to put some invest, like when I'm talking to a younger band, and they're like asking me how to do it. And, there's a lot of bands that'll come to us and just go, do you have any special or have any tips you can give me? And like the biggest thing is me going like, spend money on yourself. Like you have to invest. And it doesn't mean you have to spend stupid money. Like be smart where you do it, but invest in yourself. If you can't be bothered, if you and your 4 band members or 3 band members or whoever can't be bothered to invest in yourself, why would other people want to invest in you? And that's how we've always thought.
Right. Have you guys done anything to the church since that video?
I
only music videos.
No, Matt built a shed.
Oh yeah, I built a new shed.
In the back.
I built a storage shed for a lot of our props. We were actually starting to get our house is just crazy right now because we run a store out of here and a little film production company. So Skye does music videos for other bands sometimes. Right. I record other bands here sometimes. So we kind of got like a lot of stuff going on in this little space. Right. And so we built this shed out back so that we can start storing all the pteranod heads, all these skull heads, and all our props, and we're just building a lot of sets right now. That's for the past 4 months. We've been trying to keep up and make a music video almost every month, up until we released the record. So right now our loft space is it was a huge set, and then another set, and then it changed it, and so we just ripped a set down about a week ago.
Okay.
And we're about to start building a new one for our next video that we want to put together.
Okay. Jeremy in the UK is asking, if I'm going to buy the vinyl tomorrow, where do I buy it from that makes you the most money?
Well, when we've signed the deal with Napalm, now it's, wherever you buy it, we're going to
It's a split deal anywhere you get it.
Same, but if you're in the UK, I would suggest buying it from a Napalm store from the EU, so it's less shipping for you.
Yeah, it'll be less shipping for you and probably get there faster. We appreciate you asking, Jeremy. But yeah, we made a proper deal with them, so anywhere it goes, we get a proper cut. Thank you. Cool.
Awesome. Hitting on the videos. How many videos have you guys made yourselves over the years just for the band?
We've lost count.
No, I'm close. Well, I don't know. Okay, we've made Skye's a social media monster. Like she just loves being online. She has her whole life. But so there's tons of content, but actual music videos, I think we're at 24, 25. Somewhere in that realm, which is pretty awesome considering we only got funding for 4 of them from Napalm. The rest was all us. And even with the funding that Napalm gave us, we still put our own money in because they got pretty elaborate with what we do. Yeah, we've done about 25. I'd like to think, I actually want to look into soon what the Guinness Book of Records is of who hold, the most music videos for a band, because I would be surprised if we're starting to push that like where we could be getting to the numbers. That's a lot of music videos.
Yeah. You've obviously released 4 for this album so far?
Actually 6.
Right, I forgot. Technically, we released 2 before we signed with Napalm that are on the record.
Okay.
So 6 altogether.
Okay. How many more are coming from this album?
Well, I think we're probably going to do at least 2 more.
Yeah. Like if we could keep going, we will. But we're hoping, because we've heard some rumors that there might be some touring starting by September, October area. And if that's the case, we have to keep our business plan straight. So we were thinking maybe through the summer we could get 2 more finished if we get our head straight, and that would really line up. That'd be 8 videos off the record, which is pretty cool. And then we could go into, hopefully maybe get a tour in there just at the end of the year. That'd be sweet. If there's no tour though, I'll push us. Skye might kill me, but I'll push us to just keep doing more. I'll be like, we're here. We might as well finish the record and push through the rest of the record. And then because we've never done that. We've never done a whole record of videos. We came close. The first record we did 7 or 8 videos. 9.
Yeah.
We did a lot for the first record, and then it got too busy for us to try and finish them. And then we've got some diehards that always talk about like, when are you going to finish the storyline? Because we have the kind of a storyline in the first record, especially, and we always keep talking about maybe we're going to figure out how to slide that back in somewhere. So
I bet we've done more than 25 videos.
Yeah, music videos.
Yeah, because if you think about like the cover songs we've done are technically music videos.
Yeah.
We did about 9 before we started the album cycles, and then we did 9 on the first record. It's got to be up there.
Yeah, it's got to be way up there now.
Is there anything that you guys have wanted to do in a video that you haven't been able to pull off?
Oh, like every single music video, Skye has something she wanted to do that we have to cut. And I'm like, nope, that's not happening. Yeah. Actually, like there's like 7 things in every music video. She comes to me when we have a video, like we had a video for Vertigo that just came out that had 6 scenes, and I had to cut that down. And I told her when she first told me in the car, I was like, okay, you just described to me like a whole record cycle worth of videos in one video. And we could cut it into 2 videos, and she was against that, but I cut out a couple things and we got it down to 6 scenes. It only took me a month to build all the sets for it. Like I try to tell her that's, as much as it's creative and it's awesome, it's really slows us down getting some stuff done when you get these great ideas. But we're a really small crew. If I had like 4 people building the sets with me, we'd be done in 2 days, but I'm spending 2 or 3 weeks sometimes. So
you did an awesome job though.
Thanks. But she does. She's an elaborate girl. She lives in this weird world. Like trying to live around a girl like this, you know, I'm at the studio, I'm working on music, and Skye comes in with these ideas that I'm like, that's impossible. Like I have no clue how we're going to pull that off. And she's like, what if this happens and then this happens? And I'm like, that costs like $20,000. We don't have that. And then it turns into this idea of like, how do we do it in some other weird way, like other weird media? Maybe it's a miniature, or Skye does animation on a green screen and jumps out a window of a house. We did that in Bartender. We got her jumping out of a window of a house. That was completely just green screen effects because we really couldn't. She wanted to. She was like, what if we did this fake window and I jump out this window? I was like, dude, you'll fucking kill yourself. That's what I'll do. So I was like, let's figure out a new way to do this and save ourselves a lot of money and death. She gets some pretty elaborate ideas.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things you've talked a lot about is sometimes if you just think about there's always this one scene, and I'm going to go back OG, Spice Girls movie. The whole movie is live action, and then there's this one scene where they show the tour bus jumping over the bridge in London. I have not seen
the movie, so.
And they go to like a miniature where it's just like a little toy with a little toy bus going whee over the thing, and they're like, sorry, we didn't have the budget for that. And I've always remembered that as like, it still told the story in a way that made it kind of funny and cheap. And I've always said to Matt, if there's a way that you can't do it in real life, just figure out a hack and it'll work. Yeah. It'll be cool for our fans and they'll understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So that's why some of our media changes will, like in the middle of a video, there'll be some really weird things. You know, Skye's in Bystander had these weird cartoon spiders she created. When we first wanted to do it, we actually shot a real spider with a miniature, like in a miniature, little, like green screen arena that we built for a spider. And I found this big dock spider out in our backyard, and we put him in there and we tried to film him so we could get this real spider and its real legs coming through. And we just realized, like, we don't have the gear, we don't have the right micro lenses, like or macro lenses that you need. Like, we just was not coming through, and I was like, we just don't have the budget. Like, we need better than this for what we're trying to create.
We need super slow motion because he's moving
he was moving so fast. There was all these issues, and then we were like, oh well, that's screwed there. And then Skye was like, oh, let's just go online and see what I can do. And we started putting this animation together that looks ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it does.
But awesome. Like it's our ridiculous. And I wouldn't have been down, but I was like, because at first I was like, Skye, what are you doing, man? And then
giant
I was like,
spires. How are we gonna make this?
And
work?
The way it looks, and then I was like, man, I get it. Like this, I love all this different media starting to connect with it, and yeah, that's what she does, and I think it's fun.
Matt, what's the craziest idea she's been able to pull off?
The craziest idea you've ever been to pull off. I mean, the Vertigo video that she just did was, I wouldn't call the craziest, but the most elaborate that I was.
What about Fighter?
Fighter. Actually, that's a good one. Okay, yeah, there you go. That's a good one. You should. That's actually the best one straight up. Fighter, we did. It was on our first record. Mm-hmm. It was a song that we really cared about. We thought it was a great song, so we wanted to make a really cool music video. And we started thinking about back at the time that it was, you know, we got into the Pacific Rim was out and all these big robot kaiju stuff. And this guy started going like, let's do this video game of these two giant, a robot and me in an arena. And I was like, I love the idea, but how are we going to pull this off with our cheap budget. So basically we moved all our living room furniture, all the studio gear, everything we could in our big open concept space. We moved it all into the room we're sitting in here in our kitchen. So basically like and we built our set in the living room. Over 6 months it took us through Christmas.
Oh, wow. It was all paper mache,
all
paper
these
boxes, cardboard.
This was before we were a touring band. We had barely done touring.
Couple tours.
We'd done about 2 tours, so we had extra time between tours. We'd get a tour, we'd go out for 2 months, and then there was like a 6-month lull. So we'd have that time. This day and age, when we usually are every 2 months, we don't have time to do this kind of elaborate thing. But Skye built buildings that were like 7 feet tall out of paper mache, a whole mountain she built into the side of our wall. And we built this huge robot costume that only our drummer could fit in. And he had a work schedule. So he would have to work until like 9 o'clock at night. He'd teach drums at a school. And then he would drive over to our house at like 10 and then shoot until like 6 in the morning in this robot suit for us. And we would just, at the time, we were still earlier film people. We'd done some music videos, but we were still very much experimenting on even making shots up. And so I felt like we took a long time figuring what we were doing out. And we put our drummer through the ringer, and we put our house through the ringer. And like for months I could just sit I actually liked it. I could sit in the kitchen and like open the fridge door and get a beer
while I was
watching TV. And then the bathroom was like 1 foot away. Like everything was very small and tight. But it was probably the biggest one she pulled off to actually get it done. And if you ever watch it, if you ever have time to go in and look at the video fighter, especially after telling you, it might be interesting if you to look at how we built these weird sets, and it might come through a bit better of how strange and wild it can be for us here.
Can you say what the craziest idea that she came up with that you shot down?
Oh, nah, there's been too many of them.
I'm a good convincer.
No. I've shot tons of them down, but most of them are when she starts bringing up like things that we can't afford. So it's when it's like really where I'm like, Skye doesn't think about the construction of things. She just wants it done, and she wants to be in front of it, and she doesn't mind painting it. She likes creating. But like when it comes to like actual hammer, nails, framing, Skye's just not interested. She never like puts her hand up. She never puts her hand up and like, oh, I can't wait to go do that with you. And so there's times where I'm like, that's just unaffordable. We're going to spend so much in lumber. We're going to spend so those get shot down. Some of the flying stuff, when Skye, back in the day, we were like, Skye wanted to do harness work, a lot of stuff where I was like, dude, you're going to kill yourself. So there was some weird stuff where we just had to be more careful. A lot of it is just logistics. To make sure that A, we don't hurt ourselves, and B, that we are making sure that we remember we're making a music video and not like a movie. And Skye thinks we're making a movie, and I'm like, it can't take 12 months. So there's those kind of things. A lot of it's a logistics thing more than like she's so crazy all the time. It's just they're very elaborate ideas. One time we sent her through Toronto with this TV on her head, with this green screen on it, so we could put all our fans and Cyco family on the green screen, and she walked through Toronto with this thing, and it wasn't dangerous except she couldn't see half the time, so there's cars stopping and honking, and some of the things she did for her art, I was like, we just got to be careful, you got to be careful. She's in an Interceptor is a video she is with our clowns. It's one of the videos that we were somewhat kind of got popular on. Was Skye by accident was leaning over the railing, and ceiling fan clipped her nose and clipped her eye and knocked her out, or almost out, not completely, and split her head open.
We got it on film at least.
Blood everywhere, and like those kind of things I try to avoid, which I don't always, but that's when you ask me.
A lot of injuries.
Yeah, there's injuries. Lots
of
injuries.
We've done where I've rolled off cars, like moving cars. We've done where I've fallen by running beside cars,
take out a chunk of her knee, like stuff like that, and we always use it as promo. We're like, oh well, there's more promo.
Yeah. There you go. I saw an old video that you guys did for Digital Tour Bus, which I remember seeing back in the day when it came out, and it was you guys in the van explaining all the different. Yeah. So you guys obviously are very DIY with everything, from the van to the house to the videos to everything else. And obviously from everything you're telling me, you guys are very frugal with your money as well to make sure that you guys can survive. Out of everything that you guys do, how much of it is self-taught?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I never really went to high school and I never did post-secondary education. So this has been the education of music businesses my life. But I was really blessed when I was younger to have a lot of great teachers as far as like musical theater teachers and singing teachers that really instilled in me early how important it was to be your own artist and to pick and choose what you wanted to do with your career and to not just be swept up into, someone else's vision for you and what they think that you should be. And I think I learned also that in a balance, because I did have an earlier pop career from when I was a teenager, where I had to decide at a certain point when I got older, do I want to continue what I kind of set off doing at age 12, or do I want to pivot and start doing something different?
Right.
And Matt too, I mean, he was touring in bands across Canada, like since you were like 15, 16 years old.
You know what? Actually, I didn't go across Canada too much. That's the reason. That's what I learned, is not to go across Canada too much. A lot of it's self-taught for me. When I was younger, I wanted to go across Canada on tours, but Canada's really vast. And I just remember thinking like, oh, you got to get the band right. The band's got to be right, unless you just want to have fun. If that's all it's just about fun, then sure, get in your van and go. But a Wednesday night out in Calgary, Alberta, or somewhere like that, like you're not going to get, unless you're a popular band, you're not going to get some random people showing up if they've never heard of you. So there's bands make that mistake of just jumping on the road sometimes too early. So I avoided it for years, and I just made sure I always grew in my local area, bigger and bigger and bigger. And for a while, I really owned my own little local area, and that was great. And then I realized that bubble just burst. Like it just got to that spot where I was like, I'm not going to get any bigger in this local area unless I actually go on the road now. And my band couldn't do it. They were in the headspace, and they didn't realize what it took. Not all the way. Great guys. Skye had been out with Capital and seen the other side, where it's like, this is how much money, how much stuff they got to do. We're putting on the bus. We're doing all this stuff. And a lot of money was spent what's the word?
In the wrong places.
In the wrong places, like too high of a budget here. Don't be spending as much here. Save a bit and you'll have more for this. And when I went out with Skye, I saw some of it. I was like, man, they're really, really pushing you, and that's amazing. But on the other hand, every single dime that they're spending is going to be recouped off of your record sales. Right. And you're never going to see anything for how much they're putting in, except for hopefully the fan base, which she did. She came out with a great fan base, but also with a huge Capitol Records bill at the end that like goes, oh, you owe us all this for all that promotion for the past bunch of years. And like when I look at a tour bus, I walked off that tour bus when I was on it with her going, how much is it a day? I couldn't help but ask that tour driver, and he's like, well, it's $1,200 a day. I was like, well, $1,200 a day times 60 days. Holy frig. Like that's a lot of money.
And there was a moment I remember specifically where the full band, so Matt was hired as the guitarist, and I had 3 other band members as well. And then Matt and I started just doing acoustic touring to radio stations where it was just him and I playing. So they sent the other guys home, but they were still paying for this massive bus for just like 2 of us to go to a radio station.
This bus driver was just driving the 2 of us around and her mom. I was like, for $1,200 a day. I'm like, why not put us in an Escalade, the 4 of us, and then get a hotel room? Like, you're going to save way more than $1,200. So these kind of mistakes are huge when you watch it. And for us, when Skye walked away from that deal and started getting this started, we just told ourselves we're not going to make those mistakes. Like, so we got the vans, we made sure the van was comfy enough, and we upgraded when we could afford it. So, a couple of years ago when the van died, of course, but we'd also done enough tours and grew enough that we went, okay, now we know what we should do next. Instead of buying a tour bus, we bought a school bus, like a, your mini school bus or shuttle bus that you'd see at an airport. And we gutted that and we put that together. And that was our tour vehicle for the US for like the past couple years until that just died on us. The
last tour.
And it's the same thing. Now we'll upgrade a little bit, but we're not going to go to a tour bus. We'll probably get like what's called a bandwagon, which will cost X amount of dollars. And that's where you have to be careful, where you're just like, if you learn how to cut those corners, you can survive. But the problem is you need everybody to want to cut those corners. And sometimes people have a band member that, might play amazing drums, but if he's a goddamn headache and it costs too much, then it's like, well, how do I afford the bus and you? Like something has to give somewhere. And I think everybody has to be on the same page to make sure that something like that works. And it's not easy. It's not easy. You got to find the right guys and you got to cut the right corners.
Gotcha.
Luckily, all our band members all share the driving duties. So
yeah, all of us share the driving duties. Even when we had the nice bus, we were all still sharing the driving duties.
Cool. Well, to gut the bus, to do the all the stuff that you do in the videos, all the stuff, all the scenery and whatnot, to run the store, you do a lot of personalized stuff as well. When it comes to that stuff, how much did you, because obviously you're saying you're framing the stuff and you're working with the lumber and stuff. How much of that did you have to learn, or did you know that before getting into this situation?
I was just lucky that because I've worked day jobs off and on here and there, I always take jobs that I can leave and drop it in a moment so that I can find tours. So I used to always find work here and there. And the weirdest, coincidentally, the person that owned this church before us was a house builder. So once we took over the house, we found this, we rented it first. And then he offered it to sell it to us because he knew we liked it. So we came up with a deal to try and make it buy it. In the meantime, he was building another house a town over, and I had no work. That we weren't even really, the band had only started making the music videos. We hadn't toured or anything. And he let me work on a house with him. And I took it as like learning a new trade. And I was like, I'm just going to go and check this out. So I spent 3 or 4 months building a house with him. They kind of taught me a couple extra like quick things of like, oh, this is a lot of it's common sense. You just got to put your brain into it and feel motivated and confident to do it. And so I just do that. And with our sets, it does come in handy, but sometimes it's like Skye just has such a weird ideas, or that I just start it's just grab the nail gun and just start nailing things and just going, and it just turns into disaster a bit. Sometimes it's mainly when you're trying to pull it apart, but yeah, like some of it comes in handy, but a lot of it's just grab the nail gun and go.
Okay. And Skye, for you, the stuff that you work on, that you guys sell, the different types of merch and stuff that you personalize, all of that stuff is very elaborate. That, I mean, did you learn that from someone? Was that self-taught? Did you look at YouTube videos? How did you put all that together?
Yeah, well, as far as like making my own clothes and things like that, making my own jewelry, that was just like a childhood hobby of mine ever since I was a kid. My mom kept a lot of clothes that were either old clothes of hers or things that she had collected. And she had this big kind of, we call it the tickle trunk because of a Canadian show where they had like this dress up trunk called the tickle trunk, and inside of it was like everything you could possibly imagine.
Are you talking about Mr. Dress Up?
Yeah, Mr. Dress Up.
No, everybody knows Mr. Dress Up as a tickle trunk.
Canadian thing, is it?
No, you guys don't know Mr. Dress Up?
This is Canadian celebrity.
It's Canadian?
Yeah, it's Canadian celebrity.
Jeez, that's
he's a Canadian icon, and anybody in Canada would know Mr. Dress Up.
But a full icon, like he's almost like he's like your Mr. Rogers. Then.
Yeah, it's like our version of Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
So Mr. Dress Up had a tickle trunk, and so did we. And so I always
sounds creepy now.
It does sound very creepy. Thinking about it now. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, just putting on different outfits, and then I would always for like I think my 16th birthday around there, I was given a sewing machine, and that was kind of like a fun thing for me to experiment with, and watch YouTube tutorials and how to make my own stuff. I just was always into fabricating things and looking online and figuring out how to make it happen.
Always making and creating. It doesn't matter if it's like even in the toilets, like you go to the bathroom, and there's like some kind of art piece in front of the toilet. You're just like, where'd that come from? This guy's like, oh, it's just in the bathroom and I saw this. There's like a forest growing now over top of our toilet, or like there's just always somewhere. It's like no matter what, even if it's not the music or the business, there's something else. Create a horse is growing out of the wall in one of our parts of our house, something like that. There's always something that's coming up in her head that's creative and strange. And at first I'm not always sold, but sometimes I am. I think it's great,
Yeah, I really love repurposing things like old junk, old clothes, figuring out how to use things from my childhood to kind of like redo it. So that's always fun to me. And as soon as I discovered Shopify, I was like, this is perfect. This is how I can run my own store from home. And I've been a big advocate for bands having their own store, even if they use merch companies to do like the bulk of the stuff. At least have your own store so you can offer like the clothes that you wore in a music video and put that up for auction, or signed memorabilia or drum skins, whatever it is. There's always somebody out there that would find an original, you know, piece of history of your band interesting. And for me, it's always fun to just, you know, play around with that stuff. And whenever I feel creatively inspired, and make some jewelry and, you know,
the best is the fails. There's some fails sometimes. And those are always interesting to watch when it happens. It's like,
what's the fails?
Oh, like our countertop. Remember when you didn't expect that and all that stuff started falling everywhere, all that goop.
Still made it work in the end.
Yeah. Our floor, our hardwood floor has a bunch of it all over it. That's how well it worked. There's a bunch of things. You have fails.
Are you referring to the countertop in the bathroom that you guys showed off in the video?
Yeah, she built it in the kitchen though, so she didn't realize no matter how
much it was dripping.
Amazing it looked. It's dripping all over this weird resin, like really hard shit that's to get off. It's all over our kitchen floor. I tried to tell her
a couple spots
that this is how you decrease the value of your home, and she doesn't get it.
We're not leaving this place.
There you
go. Let's get to the album. We've been talking about all this other stuff, and we haven't even talked about Initiation yet. With this album, it really seems like you guys have gone for the jugular with melodies, with hooks, with just sonically, it just sounds so full. It really seems like you guys really stepped it up a notch with the album.
Thank you.
Yeah, was this your intent going into the album, or was this just a byproduct of you guys just organically working on it?
Well, I think going into any album, you're always thinking about how can we make this better than anything we've done? How can we do our best? And I think between Matt and I, having the experiences we've had over the last few years of touring and seeing what works in front of a crowd, what doesn't, having the experience of working together and how our kind of crazy different ideas clash and how we can best push ourselves and push each other to be the best versions of ourselves and bring a material to the table. On top of the fact that we did have a lot of time to work on this thing, between stops and starts with tours. We'd be close to finishing a track listing, and then we'd get an offer to go on tour for a few months, and then we'd have a break from the music, and we'd come back and we'd go, now that we've had these months on the road, we think this song isn't good enough, or we need to push the chorus on this song. And then we signed with Napalm, and then that was another kind of moment that we reflected and said, okay, how is the record doing now? Let's work harder.
Does this fit with some of the stuff that we were doing? Are we still excited about some of the songs? That's even emotionally being in COVID, whether we like it or not, it's mentally plays games with you. So you end up writing different flavors in some of it too that we ended up liking more. So there was a lot of
experimenting.
Yeah, and we appreciate that you like it, and we appreciate that you see that we tried to go harder than we ever have, and that's even sonically trying to make it sound the way I think is better than the other stuff. And I think that it really was those things of just we didn't just go, here's the first 10 songs we wrote and we think are good, which is technically what we did for the last 2 records. Is like Lost in Psycho City, our first record, literally just Skye and I had this fun idea, wrote 11 songs, and we got a record. And then, or 9, whatever it is. And same with the second record. We wasn't really overthought. We just went and had it. But this one was thought. Really, we thought a lot through this guy.
Overthought and
probably overthought. and some songs that I think, it's funny now because we're going through, you kind of give the record a little break. It goes away for a while. It's out now. We haven't bothered, you don't listen to too much, but I've been listening to a lot of the throwaways, or the Bs, the B-sides that we didn't use yet, that I'm like, man, listen to this. We, maybe at that point I didn't think was awesome, but we've got some good Bs here that I think are amazing now that I just got to go in and tackle again. So it's, we did sift through about 25, 30 tracks to come up with this.
Oh, wow.
Those ones, and now I've got about a handful of ones that I feel like I can go in and start attacking and either have B-sides or maybe a whole other new record. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Was there anything that you guys wanted to do consciously different on this album? Like mix any ingredients that you hadn't done in the past, or maybe use some sort of gear that you hadn't used in the past?
For me, I think it was just about having songs that were going to create moments live. I think that's the one thing that stuck out in my mind because it's been 4 years since we released our last record.
I think that's one of our biggest things that stuck out when we wrote this one, more than either record. When we wrote the last 2 records, we never thought to ourselves when we're writing how it'll work live. We don't actually think about that. Like we're not stupid. We're like, oh, that riff's dope. That's going to be cool live. But when we're building a set now, we think of how we interact with a crowd, what the crowd will be into.
Are they going to sing?
Are they going to sing at this point?
Are they going to clap at this point?
Will they get down with us at this point? Are we all going to jump at this point?
Where's the moshing?
Yeah, like we really do go through
that.
What
parts are people going to mosh to, and should those parts keep going because we're on a great tangent?
I'm constantly saying which parts are going to make people take their tops off, but it never works. But seriously, we do really go through that. We're just constantly going like, oh, this part this is going to work great. And sometimes we're writing riffs where I'm like, this is a great riff, but we'll never be able to pull it off live. Like not the way with our energy, with what we do. I'll literally have to stand there like a statue and play this. And no matter how cool that riff is, it's got to go. It's not going to work in the set. So I literally am that picky about riffs right now, about not being that complicated, not being that simple. Everything's about the live thing. And I think you kind of hit it on the head where we were like, we really want this thing to tear people's heads off live in a good way, a dance way, and a fun way, of course. But I think it will. I think we tried to really, there's lots of cool peaks and valleys. I think we have a song on there called MIA. I don't think we'd ever gone that. I think that's the first time we've gone in this direction compared to the other 2 records. We've always had a bit of this kind of reggae urban influence behind us, but I really think we started kind of pushing that even more on this record, and I'm excited to delve into that even more.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, a point to touch on is we've always had these different elements in our music, but I think sometimes it comes off like a freight train. I reference that because Opus Mar was themed around a train, and it's like, go, 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 go. Everything's intense at like super high levels of like brain activity to try to understand what's going on in our music. And I think we wanted to have more of a roller coaster feeling of one song's like an extreme left to the left side, and one's extreme right, and one's extreme up and extreme down, and keep playing with that middle area, but at
without
the same
losing
time,
us.
without losing us.
I think we kind of sort of nailed it. We're close. What's really nice is, like I said, being able to step back a bit and look at these B-sides makes me really excited to when we do step forward and start making new stuff. It'll be really excited to see what we do, what we do just personally to each other. Like what comes out next will be fun.
Yeah, it's really cool how you guys mix a lot of different influences with the music. A lot of stuff, you mentioned the reggae, the ska, and MIA is really like going like in a like Jamaican dub direction, not like dubstep, what people know of, not Skrillex. I'm talking about more of like a reggae type thing. So I mean, I get what you're saying. Is there anything that you guys have tried to incorporate that once you got it into a song, you said, yeah, that's not going to work for us?
We go back. That happens a lot, actually. That happens a lot. Like Skye and I have this way of writing. Like I write a bunch of riffs I think are great. I'll send them to Skye or bring them to Skye, and then Skye will either agree with me or will literally pick out the stuff that just does not connect with her at all. And that's just got to go because unless it's like I have the vocal idea that like works with the riff where I'm like, oh man, trust me, this is going to work. I don't want her to have to work over something that isn't inspiring, because then we won't get to where we really want to get to. I need her to be really excited about the stuff in the first place, not go, yeah, it's kind of good. Matt thinks it's going to work, so I should do this. I try to make sure that we're both like, damn, this is awesome. Let's get this figured out. And so that happens. And she's the same way with vocals. She'll send me stuff or show me stuff where I'm like, man, you need to go back to the drawing board. Give me 3 more choruses, because Skye can just keep riffing. Skye will riff and riff and riff. And it's as much as you come up with a great idea that first time around, a lot of people will say, hey, I wrote that great song in 5 minutes. It's true. And then there's that other side, like 3 months later, you found the real vocal part, and it happens sometimes. And with us, that's happened. So
there's been songs that have taken years that we revisit again at like 6 months later and say, I still really love this chorus, but I just feel like the rest isn't jiving for me. And then we'll go back to the drawing board and try other stuff. So we're constantly
or the jiving board. We go back to the jiving board.
Yeah, I think that people don't understand just how much collaborators need to almost like be brutally honest and harsh with each other
and push each other off.
Yeah,
of it
like your idea sucks.
I've never seen Skye cry, but I've seen her very bent when I've told her that I'm not into something, and I can see that emotionally I've actually hurt her feelings, and because she really does like it, and I'm not nice enough the way I even tell her about it. I just go, dude, that's not working. That's too cheesy or too poppy for me.
And I think it's almost
and it just I feel terrible, but I'm like, it just pushes her. It drives her to just like put her middle finger up to me and come up with something better though. And I think it's the same with me. She pisses me off. I'll be like, this riff's sick. How do you not like this? And she's like, I just can't connect with it. And I'm like, what? Like, you just can't connect with it? You're crazy. And I literally will call her that and get grumpy and like silent and just like silent and not very productive for a bit. And then like by the next day, I'm usually writing a new riff to replace that because I get that it just won't bring the best out in her.
Yeah. Is there ever a time where you call each other out and say, you know what, I can tell from the emotions or from what you're emoting that you're really not into this, so I'm not going to push it any further?
Yeah. There's times where we're trying to write and it doesn't connect. Skye's the one that calls it most of the time when she's not in the mood. She'll be like, we'll be running along a train, and if I've done it too, though. I've done it too, where I'm like, we're in, and something doesn't groove, and she digs it and I don't, and it stops us right in our path to the point where we're done working together that day. That's happened. That happens.
Okay.
I think it'd be really interesting to do like a Judge Judy type of like court situation where I believe like one part is super strong and then you believe another part, and then it's like we're trying to make a case for it. Like, don't you see how this lyric is so great? It's going to hit people in the heartstrings, and you're going to say, no, that's cheesy. People will think that that's stupid. And they just kind of, that's how we are in like the studio, right? Like we're always trying to make a case for the parts we love. And then sometimes what's really funny is when Matt will write a part that I love, but he doesn't like it. Or I will write a lyric that he's like, Skye, that lyric you wrote was sick. And I'd be like, but no, it's not good enough. We need something else.
The worst.
And you're like, but you wrote it. It's good. And I'm like, it's not good enough.
That's the worst part of it all is as a guy that does a lot of the production for the band, when Skye comes to me or she's riffing and she comes up with something that's golden that I think is brilliant, and she's just riffing so she doesn't think it's brilliant, and I'm like, that's it. Let's not keep looking. And then she gets in this thing with, because I said let's not, she has to. And it just goes on, and we end up just right back to her golden moment that I picked out before. I'm like, this is awesome, Skye. You already have it. But she's done that to me too. There's a couple songs. The song "Bad News," I'm wearing a sweater for it. This song wasn't even supposed to be on the record. I made that instrumental like years before. In fact, I remember when I made it, I even had to change the first riff. I changed it, but anyways, long story short,
I was in love with the instrumental, but he did not like any of the vocal ideas.
I didn't like any of the vocal ideas so much that I hated the song anymore. I hated even the instrumental. I was like, screw it, we'll just move on. This guy's like, I love it so much, and I've connected with it. So she just kept trying, and it was months and months, and then finally she brought something that I was like, this is awesome. The song's coming together now. You know, she sold me on it. So it's an interesting battle with us. We definitely aren't. It's not like four guys that got together that like or into hardcore music, just write a hardcore band, or into metal, write a metal band. We're definitely not trying to do that, which is nothing wrong to that. Man, if you love something, be passionate about it. We're passionate about experimenting. You know, that's what we're passionate about.
Okay. Rob actually in the chat asked, what influenced you guys initially and what influences you guys today in 2021?
Well, I think the whole reason why we started Sumo Cyco was we wanted I wanted a place to feel free to experiment as far as my voice and what I could bring creatively to the table. I wanted to be able to scream and rap and do crazy rhythms and sing soft and sing full on, and to be able to write about whatever I wanted to write about without feeling limited. And I think that freedom of like complete, like honest, authentic expression, you know, doesn't necessarily always fit into what the world expects of either a genre or what you're supposed to do. And to me, originality and finding, like digging into my own psyche and my childhood, like memories that scarred me, and figuring out why
you had childhood memories that scarred you?
Well, everyone has movies that like stick with them, like an image of when
I
you're
hope
a
your parents
kid.
don't see this. They're gonna be like, "What happened to my daughter?"
No, just like different things that like you won't realize are always kind of subconsciously shaping who you are. And that's like, I guess, what people do when they're in therapy is like try to figure out what those issues are. But I just find that that's really very interesting to me to try to like dig through. And I think as far as like musically, I think there's two things specifically I can nail that really catapulted Sumo Cyco to start. And that's Matt showing me the record Babylon by Skindred.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And us hearing the song by Animal Alpha, Fire, Fire, Fire on that video game. And between those two things happening pretty closely and concurrently, I was like, I got to do this. I got to do a heavy project.
Yeah, we should. There's a band called Animal Alpha. They're out of, I think they're Sweden.
Sweden, yeah.
I think they're Sweden. Oh, so yeah. They did. I think it was around 92, somewhere around there that they came out. And I didn't know anything about them. We just play the video game Pacific Rim or something, like it's a racing game. Okay. I love racing games, and this song is on it called Fire, Fire, Fire. And I was like, man, this girl is badass. The music's badass. And we just checked out the records and we're like, this is just so cool. Like, so I could see how that's a good one. I never thought about that.
I think it was because we literally listened to Babylon, and then I heard that song Fire, Fire, Fire with a female screaming, doing those crazy rhythms like da 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 da, and just attacking it so fierce. I was like, just between those two bands, I was like, I'm ready to attack something new. Like that's
exciting. Ready to da 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 da.
Yeah, I was ready to da 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 da.
Yeah, I was actually turned on to them by one of the NHL games. They had a song called Brundy that was in.
Oh yeah, we know Brundy. Yeah, of course, that track's awesome, man.
Yeah,
great guitar tone on that record. I love that record.
Yeah, she has a black metal band now.
We know. We checked it out. We're not as in love with it. It's not like I don't like it, but there was something about Animal Alpha that had this extra uniqueness to me that I don't know what it is, but I still listen to them to this day.
Yeah. You pay
there's
for the
a lot of energy
all
there.
you need is the edge. That's their record that we loved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy that comes off, like a rawness to them that really it's really cool. It's I enjoy what they do.
Yeah, I wish there's a lot of bands out there that I wish they were still together. This band was that, but that's a band I could see live, or because I've seen videos, of course, and I've seen some images on YouTube, and I just think that would probably be a great band to catch. I feel like that's kind of what we are. If you catch us, is what you would have seen from them, probably.
Yeah, I think that, and then also like just growing up having my influences of my kind of weird pop life has always kind of, I always have those hooks whenever we're writing music. I always go back to some of those pop hooks just because I spent so many years trying to hone my pop songwriting skills that no matter what heavy bands that I fall in love with, there's still a side of me that can't escape the infectious pop hooks that I kind of grew up on.
Some of them drive me effing nuts, man. I like some of them. I love pop. I really do. I'm a big fan of pop music. If it's amazing pop music, it has to be like oozing the good pop, because there's lots of pop out there that I don't agree with, that I'm like, oh my God, this is just typical. But then there's like those artists that really shine through as just incredibly creative pop artists still. So I'm still in, but Skye knows how to write both. She knows how to write really eclectic, cool pop, and then she knows how to write the as dumb as it gets hook that you hate it, but you love to hate it. You want to hate it, but you wake up in the morning singing, and you're like, oh my God, she's right. And that happens sometimes, and I got to deal with it. Sorry.
Okay. Throw me under the bus, you know.
When one of my fellow patrons here that's in the chat tweeted earlier today that you guys were going to be on, someone by the name of Willoughby Savington replied via Twitter and said, "They opened for Ginger when I saw them a few years back. They put on a great show. Skye got down into the pit and got everyone to lay down. They jumped up at once. Later, she made her way to the bar and was taking shots of whiskey while performing. After that, she ran the merch booth."
Sounds like a typical night.
That sounds like a typical night from us. We're a hands-on band, you know.
You guys are saying that shows are starting back up. If you guys could go out and tour with anyone, what would be the one band that you guys would want to go out with?
Ooh.
Faith No More?
Oh, look at you.
We were just talking about them today.
We were just talking about Faith No More. They just announced some cool stuff coming up. I don't know. There's lots of bands we love. Right now I don't know if you know the band Refused, but I'm a big fan of the Refused, and I love their guitar playing, and I think the singer is wild, and I've seen them a couple times, and so like if there was a band I could be opening for and watching every night when I'm done playing, they would be a great band to watch every night once we're done playing.
You know what the truth is? I think that this question not that I haven't answered with many different answers before, but I think at the end of the day, my favorite crowds to open for are cold crowds.
Cold crowds?
Yeah. My favorite thing in the world is taking that dude with that pissed off face with his arms crossed, who's having a horrible night, who's like waiting for the main act and thinks that he has to sit through another half an hour of some band he doesn't like, and turning him into a fan that's going to get down on the floor with the rest of us, let me ride his shoulders from the bar back to the stage, and ends up at the merch booth buying 5 shirts for him and his 4 kids. That has happened before, and that's what I love.
It's true. It is actually a lot of fun playing for cold crowds, because I'd like to think that we've honed, as Skye used the word honed, we've honed in on our craft as a live band. I feel like a lot of our popularity over the years that has come is because of our live act in a lot of ways, and it's because we interact. We know how to work with the crowd really well. Skye knows how to pull things out of people that probably weren't expecting to like us. They usually end up walking away enjoying themselves, even if they're not usually into the music. They're like, oh, this is a little lighter, a little not as this or that. Either way, they usually end up having a good time with us, and Skye knows how to do that. And it's enjoyable for me from the stage. I'm stuck on stage playing. It's enjoyable seeing Skye she usually has a wireless mic. When she gets into that crowd, she actually really does target the that elitist guy that doesn't really want to be part of it, but sort of does. He's almost there.
It's like he's calling to me, and I'm like, I need to let you have a good time.
Yeah,
it's too uptight tonight. Come on, let it go.
It almost becomes a fun game, seeing how many she can try and pull forward and get in with us.
Yeah, even the one guy specifically, I remember in New Zealand, I held up the entire show to try to get him to give me that energy I was looking for, and he just wouldn't budge. He wouldn't budge, and I was like, I have to keep going with the show. I'm sorry, man. You just let all these people down. They're all rooting for you. And then at the end of the show, he ends up at the merch booth. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? Like, you literally would not give me the time of day while I was performing. And he still bought a shirt because he just admired the fact that I was willing to try my hardest to get him to have a good time. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of jumped into my next question, which is, what was the hardest crowd to win over?
Hardest crowd ever.
Was there a specific tour that sticks out to you guys opening for a band?
There's a couple tour. Just our very last tour was probably one of a couple cold nights when we played with we were out with, what's that band? 69 Eyes. We were out with a band called 69 Eyes. Really nice guys, kind of legends in their own right for what they do. But it's like a bit more of a gothy vibe than what we are. And there was a couple nights there that that gothy crowd just was like, I felt like they were like, what is it? Is it Nosferatu, that Dracula thing where there's like that old famous black and white film where that guy's doing that? It's like, it felt like they all did that for the first couple of songs, and then they get used to us. They see what we're doing, and they usually embrace us. But I felt like that tour was probably one of the harder ones.
I think
a couple times.
Yeah, I think it's because my usual tactic to win over people is to really like get the crowd involved. But when there's a crowd that's literally afraid to to be kind of interactive or to
they weren't
touch
a
their
moshy
neighbors,
crowd.
they're not moshing. They stick to themselves a little bit more, like in the way that they kind of work,
which is totally okay,
totally fine. Different
but like
styles.
Skye will be like the kind of person that won't really ask for permission. She'll just jump on the top of people.
I'll be the one like handing random people shots and expecting them all to like down them with me and letting me jump on their shoulders.
Or jumping on their shoulders.
And when they're just like, "Ooh, don't touch me."
Yeah, there's like gother guys who are like, "Don't touch me." I'm like, "Whoa, why don't you want to be touched?" They're just a little weird, but all nice people. Like there was never a real problem, and we always sold merch and met new people. But it was definitely it felt colder at the times.
It's always adapting to the crowds too. It's to know, Matt and I will always usually, especially if we're going on a new tour, we know that a lot of people won't know who we are. We're always coming up with like, okay, what cover song are we going to do? Like, 3 or 4 songs in, so that if they haven't gotten one over yet, there's something that is at least somewhat familiar to them that'll kind of give them that jumping off point to say like, okay, I can kind of dig this.
Yeah.
And so we always kind of think when we're going on tour with a new band, like, okay, what cover do we want to pull out? Because every crowd's different and every crowd will like different types of songs.
And it's always in the third. See, this is what I mean by we think of it. It's always on the 3rd or 4th spot. Depending on the crowd. If the crowd's cold, then we'll go by 3 or 4. We got to get that cover in, and we don't even do a full cover. It's usually like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of just like to make sure that they are just like, oh, they can sing along with us for a minute, and that's a huge thing to win people over. So that's something we always put in. We're always like, especially if we see a cold crowd, mostly it's if you see people like this, we're like, oh, we're doing the cover tonight.
Right. Yeah.
Last one we were doing was BYOB. From System, and it was same thing. It was one of those things where it really helped make the crowd understand what we're doing, because System's a unique band. There's a lot of world beats, a lot of interesting stuff going on there that I think that we are a bit of influence by. And if you can get your head wrapped around seeing us do a cover of it, you can start to understand where we're coming from a bit more, I think. So we kind of picked stuff like that to do live.
Yeah, makes sense. And with 69 Eyes, you guys are at the opposite end of the spectrum of the color spectrum. Literally, you're talking about a completely black crowd there, and you guys are coming out with vibrant colors. Do you ever think, you know what, next show we're going to change up to kind of fit in more, or it's the opposite?
Me. Okay, so like we are obviously paying attention. We're trying to sell our merch as well as we can. But we're also not the kind of people that just don't want to be who we are. But Skye loves to dress in punk rock clothes, metal clothes. She does whatever she wants, but she loves her colors. But I remember specifically, when we were on the Ginger Run, we were just selling like hotcakes. Those people were there to see a girl rock. Didn't matter if it was tatty or not. They loved Skye. It was great. You go into the 69 Eyes thing, it's a whole different vibe. There's like, they're all there. They're looking for these artsy, gothy dudes. And I'm like, cool, great. So Skye comes out. We're playing the Whiskey Go-Go, if I'm correct. And she comes out looking more like Barbie than you could ever look like. She's got a pink tutu on, this like little white shirt. And I was like, honestly, out of all the days we're in LA, you decide to go as colorful as possible. And then like every person is dressed like Dracula. Like I was like, and I remember we finished the night and we had a great night. It was all around, but I remember us sitting in our bus later going, how do we do in merch? Now the whiskey isn't a great call for merch because you have to go upstairs. So it does cut some people going up. But anyway, I remember Skye going, maybe I should have tried some black clothing tonight. And so like the next show was like in Pomona or wherever we were, and Skye came out in like a whole different rock outfit.
Where's my spike bra? Yeah. With the black studs. Thank you. Bring it over here now.
Yes, she came out with this tough black corset. We sold a bunch of extra merch. So it's, it's one of those things you got to play around and feel it out. But she likes her colors. She'll just do what she wants. That's the way it goes.
Cool. As far as touring is concerned, are you guys contemplating touring at this point? Because they're talking about shows in the fall already from some bands. Is there anything in the works for you guys?
Yeah, nothing we can officially announce just yet, but we're trying to work something out for the end of the year.
Like our agents talked to us about a run with another band, a bigger band than us, in late October. And they're cool, and it would be fun if we can pull it off. It really comes down to logistics. Like I'm going to get my vaccination shot on Monday, so if I don't die, then that's a good step towards making this tour happen. And
yeah, Canada is really strict right now with restrictions.
We're on our lockdown, so we've got to get our vaccination shots. But as it comes down to it, yeah, like we're obviously, as soon as it opens and everything's safe, we want to get on tour. Our agents talk to us about it.
I know the fans want it.
We
really
see America's opening up in places. I also wonder to myself, no matter how much these announces are happening, will there be any backlashes still? And because of restrictions and codes and different bylaws in different cities and states. It's very early still. Like I saw that Madball play. Madball did New York 3 weeks ago or something. No masks, 3,000 or 4,000 people. Looked incredible. Made me want to go on tour like crazy. I was like, oh yeah, awesome. And then I saw a couple things about how there's legal ramifications from that 2 days later. And I'm like, yeah, that's what, we'll see what happens. So fingers crossed. But as soon as it becomes available where we can get on the road, we're going to. That's what we want to do. We want to be safe about it and healthy, but that's how we earn a living, by trying to tour,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually in Europe, so our lockdown for province ended on the 9th. So it was like fucking, Black Friday. Cars were lining up to get out of each province to get to the beach or to get to this or to get to that.
Yeah, where are you in Europe?
I'm in Spain.
Oh, no way. That's like one of this guy's favorite places ever.
Beautiful.
Where in Spain?
What part in Spain?
I'm in the north center. I'm about 40 minutes outside of a city called Bilbao. Right outside of a city called Santander. If you've seen any of these Santander banks on the East Coast, the U.S.
What travels end up there?
My family's originally from here. They migrated to the States in the 60s. I was born in the States, and I met my wife and was a bit shell-shocked from witnessing 9/11 in person, and decided that I needed to go elsewhere. So so I've been here for almost 18 years now. So
wow,
amazing,
awesome, good for you, congratulations. I mean, that's a beautiful place. I'm sure you're happy.
Yeah, it's different. Every place has its good and bad things, but you learn to like you guys, you learn to work within the parameters and make the best of what you got.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's cool.
100%.
So, you learn to adapt.
There you go. Pivot, as Skye has said many times.
Yeah, we have a little inside joke about pivot. We were on our last live stream with our fans, and it was the word of the day.
The word of the day was pivot. That, and we have the pivot and chicken wings and top hats we've been using, because whenever we get haters, instead of trying to tell them to fuck off, we just say chicken wings and top hats.
And they just emoji it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice way of being mean.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, makes sense.
Usually all the haters are like, what? What's this mean? And we're like, yeah, chicken wings and top hats, motherfucker.
There you go. Another question from the chat came in that I want to ask before we wrap things up here. How did you guys come upon your name?
Well, bandnamegenerator.com. No, just I wrote a list of words that I kind of liked, and Matt and I played, and naming a band is the hardest thing in the world, because you want to come up with something that's original enough that when someone Googles you, they can find you, but it also wants to describe what your sound is. It wants to look cool when it's written out on a logo. It's just like so many things. Right. And we're never 100%. Matt and I there's always a situation where we're like, oh man, why did we name our band that? but at the end of the day, I feel like, Sumo brought me influences of power, strength, in your face, can't miss it, Cyco, unpredictable, a little bit wild, and that's kind of like what we try to create with our music. So
we also thought it looked good on a leather jacket. Well, it wasn't us. It was like Skye was. We were lucky enough to be hanging out with Tim Armstrong from Rancid one night,
right?
and Skye had done some work with him and written some songs with him. So he was like, come and see me play, hang out. Actually, I think Skye was performing with him that night. And he was like, so you got this new band, blah, blah, blah. And Skye's like, yeah, man, blah, blah. And she's like, so what are you calling it? And she was like, Sumo Cyco. And he asked Lars, his guitar player, if it thinks Sumo Cyco will look good on a leather jacket. And then Lars was like, yeah, man, that's a good idea. And like, they were cool. And Skye kind of looked at me, he was like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, I don't know. I still don't like it. But anyway.
Yeah.
It kind of stuck like that. It was mainly Tim that pushed us, I think, the most.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was any connection with Suicidal Tendencies because I know they spell psycho the same way as well.
The connection is definitely there. It's like that when Skye first came up with the band name, and she was like, "Oh, Sumo Cyco," because of the way Psycho was spelt with all the letters and stuff. I didn't think it looked as. I brought up. Because I'm a huge Suicidal fan, and I loved Infectious Grooves back in the day. I was like, no, they used to use CYCO, and this was a time where Suicidal was like kind of slowed down. Like they weren't, they've kind of made a comeback lately. They're out again, but it was kind of like quiet. And I just thought it was a cool homage to it.
And I like the fact that it was like four letters on 4 letters, like stacked or on neckles. Like it would just fit really well.
It definitely has something from Suicidal. I'm careful about how I say it because I just don't want to be like, oh yeah, we just stole from. I'm a huge fan. It was a homage thing, I guess.
I think the thing is because Matt was a fan, but I wasn't as familiar. That when he's like, "Oh yeah, spell it like this," I'm like, "Oh, that works perfect. It's easier to spell. It's more Googleable because it's like." Hardly people spell it like that, and I started using it like everywhere, calling our fans psychos, putting psycho merch, all this stuff, and more people brought it up. And then it was literally like after we'd kind of established ourselves as a band that I started learning more about how much psycho is used in Suicidal Tendencies, like Psycho Mike, and they have records, and in every song that mentions the word psycho is spelled like that. And I was like, I didn't realize how integrated that word was into Suicidal Tendencies. I thought it was like one album or one song that they spelled that way.
We also have to remember that we were not even going to be Sumo Cyco the band wasn't technically going to be a band. Like Skye and I were from 2 opposite polar places. We just were going to write a couple songs and make a couple music videos, and that was it. We were just like, let's just do it because we haven't seen each other a while and get into the studio. And so even coming up with a band name, I don't completely feel like we realized the adventure that we were about to try and take. I thought we were just building something that like literally the next year we might be on to other things, and it was just a one-stop shop, fun little thing. And for the longest time at the first while I fought with Skye about the band name because I liked it, but I also thought it's misleading in some ways. It does make people think Japan right away, and there's some things like that which I'm like, well, Skye loves Japan, we love Japanese rock, so all of this still worked. And I was like, okay, cool. I tried to convince her to name it something else. She's like, no, I love it. I'm like, okay. But neither of us knew that we were about to go into 10 years of 6 years on the road.
We didn't know people were going to start tattooing the band name on themselves, and now we can't change it.
Yeah, there was a time where we actually considered really changing the band name, where we were like, maybe it isn't a strange name. Some people have it. It's not the first time. We're not going to lie. It's not the first time we've had labels come to us and actually tell us that we're like, we love the band, but the name is too strange for us. And we're just like, well, we have people that have tattooed it on their chest, man. Like, it ain't fucking not changing it, man. Like, that's not fair to these people that care about us. And it's literally, it's stuck with us because of those people mostly. That's mainly Skye. She's like, man, we can never change it now. There's a lot of people out there that have been caring enough to get our signatures tattooed on their bodies. Like, last thing we're going to do is change our band name now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
so now we love it. We have to love it. Long story. You guys asked, what about the band name? But think about it. The real truth is, if anybody, it's a monumental moment when you're creating a business to make sure your brand is right. Because even for us, we do have complication because of that brand. And for a band that likes to share knowledge and learn and try to teach, it is something you should really, really consider and think about, like making sure that brand can hit on all levels, on all those places they need to, what kind of complications you could come into. And do you love the brand name? Because if you really love it and you're going to put some time into it and it starts to grow like us, it's going to be years and years of supporting that. So you got to think about that. That's a good one. We at least love it enough to still support it.
Yeah. Cool. That is awesome. You mentioned before that you guys are very active on social media. Where should people go to keep up with you guys? on social media and find out, when the tours are announced, if there's anything else going on?
Yeah. For us, it's we try to be on as many socials as possible. So you
Twitter,
can find us
Instagram,
at SUMOCYCO. Everywhere is just the handles are just Sumo Cyco. So whether that's sumocyco.com or Twitter or Instagram or
even if you spell our name
TikTok.
wrong, it usually comes up.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, just like Brad said in the chat, you Google it, comes up right away.
That was another one. Actually, this is a perfect one. Skye had actually thought about that. Half the reason she sold me on the band name was she was like, nobody, when they Google this, nobody's going to have this band name. Nobody will spell it this. It won't be an argument. There's not a band out there called Cake, and you're going to get confused with baking cakes or any of that. Like, this is straight up very simple to find us. If you hear about us and want to look us up, you should be able to find us. And I was like, she's right. That's a really good idea in this day and age with the saturation.
Matt had a band previously called Dodger, and anytime you try to Google his name, it's like you have to go through pages and pages of baseball stuff until you can find one musical post about it.
And 17 other bands named Dodger.
Yeah.
Artful Dodger, or that's a perfect example of the finding something that you really can find easily on the net fast. Yeah,
makes sense. Before wrapping up, I got to ask you guys where I need to send the bill for choruses like Bystander and Vertigo being stuck in my head for days on end. They're renting my headspace.
That's great.
So, I mean, there's been many occasions since I've been, since the label has been sending stuff to me that I get up and Vertigo's in my head continuously. It's like, it's there again, So buying the vinyl, like I showed you guys before, was a no-brainer for me because the stuff, a lot of these choruses are earworms. So I thank you guys for not only your time, but for the music. Like I said, what I said to you guys before, I honestly meant it. I do think you guys have raised the game with this album.
Thank you.
And it's catchy as hell. It's heavier than what you guys have done. And at the same time, it's more experimental than what you guys have done before as well. So it's as if you guys are ticking off so many boxes at the same time. So I thank you guys for your time and for initiation. I love the album. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, brother. That was a lot of fun.
It means a lot that you had such kind words for us, and we appreciate it, and hope hope to just keep spreading the word and getting that good music out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll hook up again in the future.
Thank you, my man. Have a good one. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Awesome. See you guys. Awesome. That was my interview with Sumo Cyco. That is, when it comes to the live stream, that currently breaks the record of the longest I've had anyone on here. It still doesn't touch Gene Hoglan's 5.5 hours or Bumblefoot's 3 hours and change. But I only intend on, when the labels ask, how long is this going to be for? An hour max. And sometimes they say, no, can't go past 20 minutes, can't go past 30. So you try to work through those confines. I wasn't told any of that here, and I was ready for questions, and I saw that we had a good groove going, and that's why I was able to ask the questions that that you guys mentioned in the chat. So I appreciate everyone's support, everyone that checked this out live. If it's the first time that you're here because you wanted to check out the Sumo Cyco interview, please go to MarsAttacksRadio.com and you'll find all of the media's, or Jesus, I'm fumbling. It is 1:25 in the morning, folks, so I apologize. You'll find links to all of my social media pertaining to the podcast. You'll find a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the YouTube for the Signals from Mars live stream, the replays, I should say. You'll also find the past episodes of the podcast. You'll find the new releases, which I put out every week, every Friday. Last Friday, the 7th, the Sumo Cyco album came out. The Gojira album came out, and the Tetrarch album came out. I featured all three of them on MarsAttacksRadio.com, and 2 of the 3 vinyls are here. The other one is on the way. The Tetrarch is the only one that I don't have. So, and I couldn't get the special edition with that because shipping was just too out of whack for that. It almost cost more than the actual vinyl from the label for some reason. So I'm just getting the plain black on that, but still a cool album nonetheless. You guys that come here week after week know that what I say is how I feel, and this is who I am. And there are people that know me longer that are in the chat. And even though I may be annoying or obnoxious or whatnot, you know that what I say is what I feel most of the time. And I really enjoy their album. I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass. I think it's something that's really worth checking out, with an open mind. Is it Slayer? No, it's not Slayer. Is it, straight up pop music? No, it's not that either. It's a lot of different things mixed in. They brought up System of a Down. I can see the similarities because of all the different, influences that they bring in to make Sumo Cyco what it is, but it's still not, System of a Down either. It's a whole different animal. Check out their stuff on YouTube. Again, 20 some odd videos. They're saying they're pushing 25, if not more. It's ridiculous. And all of this stuff is really cool. It's not just a bunch of, dudes up on stage, just, kind of mailing it in. It's all really cool visually. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Want to send a shout out to all of the patrons, whether you guys are with me today or whether you're checking this in the replay. We have Gabriel, Brad Dahl, and I believe that Jeremy was here earlier. We also have Steve Hoker, Mark Striegel, Chris Vaglio, who is the newest patron, and I don't believe I'm missing anyone. But if I did, I apologize. I appreciate all your support with Patreon, and I appreciate anyone that's just listening to this and follows me on all the various platforms where my shows are available. And that's that. Thank you guys once again, and we will see you next time right here on the Signals from Mars live stream, brought to you by the Mars Attacks podcast. See ya.